You're listening to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. During the next hour, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Welcome to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. No need to clap for me or for Mark Teresi. And Father Greg Sakowitz, the rector of Holy Name Cathedral in Chicago, and co-host Mark Teresi, executive director of the cathedral. Our number 312-255-8408. And instead of a little introduction here, Mark, or where we just talk back and forth, people are probably wondering what was that wonderful, terrific introduction. In the United States and elsewhere, Catholics are increasingly marrying other Christian or members of other faith traditions, Jews, Muslims, Hindus. These marriages provide pastoral challenges, but also gifts for our ongoing dialogue. Dan Olson, the director of the Office for Ecumenical and Interreligious Affairs, has done a lot of research on these mixed marriages. Dan joins the program to share what he has learned and discuss this topic of intermarriage more broadly. But beside Dan Olson, well, good morning, Dan. How are you?
Morning, Father Greg. I'm doing great.
Great to see you, and here we are. I know still, somewhat distant, and it's always great to be with you. But we are also joined beside Dan Olson. Bridget Richardson is a producer and at Max Studios at the University of St. Thomas in Houston. She's Roman Catholic and married to Daniel, a member of the Church of Christ. So welcome to Bridget and to Dan. Welcome to the program this morning. Are you down in Houston right now?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having us.
Well, thank you for joining us. Now, it must be, Chicago has been very hot the last several days. Don't tell me Houston's been cooler.
No. Fortunately, well, I don't know if fortunately, but it is just as hot down here, believe us.
Okay, it's kind of figured in August in Houston. Dan, a question I have, and first of all, the first minute we listened to that video with great audio, tell our listeners, what was that?
Which Dan?
Dan Olson.
That was a documentary that was done by Vision Videos, filming a couple of years back. And they told the story of three couples, including Bridget and Daniel, and some of the gifts and challenges they've had in their life, but really how they've been able to bring us and speak toward unity within the home and unity in Christ and the models they can provide for us. It's a wonderful documentary. I'd highly recommend it to listen to those narratives of those couples that are bringing us closer to Christ.
Dan, in your doctoral dissertation, this was your topic. What drew you to this topic?
It came from my work in a parish outside of Milwaukee. I met a number of couples who weren't quite sure how they were going to fit into the life of the parish. Is it going to be, whether it's around Eucharistic sharing or where to baptize their children? So working with them and trying to figure out the best ways to integrate them into parish life led me to this topic from a theological perspective. And I've always been drawn to our understanding of the family as a domestic church. So how do those churches of the home that are mixed within different Christian denominations, how do they live out a life of Christ as a small church of the home? Those two things really drew me.
Now, that's very interesting. Now, along those very same lines for Bridget, and I guess we will differentiate Dan from Daniel, which makes it a little bit easier for now.
Which is which?
Which is which? Daniel Richardson.
Okay.
So for Bridget and Daniel, Bridget, were you born and raised Catholic?
Yes, I was. I am.
And then when you met Daniel, first of all, how did the two of you meet? Where'd you meet?
We met in college at University of Tennessee in Knoxville.
Okay, and the thing is, when all of a sudden the meeting and dating started, did it cross your mind, I'm sure early when you came to realize that Daniel is not Catholic, did that slow you down, or what was that the very beginning like?
Well, I was already very heavily involved in the Christian Student Center on campus, and that was mostly like a Church of Christ group, but they recognized and welcomed all Christian traditions at the Christian Student Center. And so the majority of my friends early on in college, well, throughout college really, were Protestant, particularly Church of Christ, because, you know, I went to Mass every Sunday still. I was the one person, you know, that would go to Mass when they would usually go to their Sunday services. But I do like Wednesday nights with them. I do all the events with them, and they were my friend group. We went to movies together. And I occasionally did some of the Catholic stuff, but sometimes I didn't feel as welcome there. And I never felt that way at the Christian Student Center. So I'm a little older than Daniel. And when he started going to the Christian Student Center, we became friends quickly. And then we started dating eventually. And the differences in our Christian traditions never really seemed like an obstacle, because I had already been so welcomed by that group of friends, and, you know, welcomed by just different people within Church of Christ. And they helped me understand that, you know, Christ is the center. And at first I was kind of like, oh, I'm Catholic, am I allowed to be here? They're like, of course, you love Jesus, like, come worship with us. So
come join us.
It was a beautiful experience.
Now, along those same lines, Daniel, when you first met Bridget, being from the Church of Christ, and Bridget, Roman Catholic, what went through your mind as all of a sudden the relationship started blossoming and deepening? What were your images of people who were Catholic, and especially now Bridget, who you are now dating?
Right. Well, and I don't know if I had any necessarily preconceived notions. I come from a very conservative tradition in terms of Church of Christ, and it wasn't an obstacle in my head, but I can see where it might have been to some of my friends or my family members growing up. As our relationship progressed, I never felt a pressure to either become Catholic or have Bridget, you know, join our tradition of Christianity, because how I understood it is, you know, we both love Jesus. We know Jesus loves both of us and all of us in terms of all of humanity, died for all of us. And so because our faiths were rooted in Christ and not necessarily in our traditions or what have you, I think that kind of led us more to concentrating on the relationship between ourselves and then the relationship to Christ as a couple, and eventually growing as one as a married
That is
couple
terrific.
as well.
Mark, take us to break. Those are great responses.
Yeah. WNDZ 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. Or you can go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. And we come back, I'd like to ask Dan, in his parish experience, where do families fit into these potential engagements and marriages? How do families factor in? We'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Have an old bicycle that's not being used? Consider donating it to Catholic Charities Veterans Bike Project of Lake County. Skilled volunteers are refurbishing bicycles to make them safe and ready to be used by veterans to get to and from their new places of work. We also gratefully accept financial contributions that are used to purchase bike helmets and other safety accessories. Our veterans have faithfully served the United States, and now it is our privilege to serve them. For more information on the Veterans Bike Project of Lake County, call 847-782-4219. That's 847-782-4219.
Welcome back.
Es fabuloso verlos.
Dobrze jest znowu być razem.
It's good to be together again.
After so many months apart, pandemic capacity limits have been lifted, and we want to welcome everyone back to church. We can all pray together again. And listen as our choirs lift their voices in song.
We've been together in spirit.
And now, when you are ready, our doors are open wide.
Nuestras puertas están abiertas de par en par.
Nasze drzwi są otwarte.
And we're here to welcome you back to Catholic Mass.
We're back. Catholic Chicago, WNDZ, 750 AM on your dial. 312-255-8408. Or you can go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. We're with Dr. Dan Olson, Director of the Office of Ecumenical Interreligious Affairs for the Arch Chicago, and Bridget Richardson and Daniel, who are Interfaith, interchurch couple. We're going to preface the question with two brief stories. I have one, Father Greg has one. We were talking at the break, and then we are going to ask Dr. Dan Olson about families in parishes, how they connect with this. I was sharing with Father Greg that my mother-in-law, who's since deceased, but she would have been 95 now, so you're talking about probably 72 years ago. She was dating she's Catholic, Roman Catholic, Presbyterian gentleman, a very nice young man, and her father took him aside and said, you're a very nice man, but you're not Catholic. So he basically nixed the relationship. And thank God we moved past that. But Greg, you
and I have the same similar story, and that is my mother, who died a year ago, January, would have been now 98. When she was dating, one of her first dates she had with a gentleman who was Jewish. And my mother, coming from 100% Polish background, told her mother, my grandmother, I've started dating a Jewish man. And Grandma, her mother, said to her, this relationship is over. You will marry a man who is Roman Catholic and Polish.
Oh, wow. That's a double.
A double. In my family, Roman Catholic and Polish. And so, Mark, you have a question for Dan along those lines.
Yeah. Dr. Dan, your experience in parishes led you to this doctoral thing. What did you experience with families when couples would come practicing different faiths but wanting to be engaged and married in the church?
Well, let me follow up what you said with a story of my own, which is my last name is Olson, which is a Norwegian Lutheran heritage. And when my grandma married my grandpa, it was understood that he was going to become Catholic. That was the end of the story. But my name actually has Lutheran origins. But she's in her 90s, still doing all right up in Wisconsin. So there's God these stories that we have in our background.
I forgot, Mark, that Dan Olson's a Packer fan.
Uh-oh. You are?
This program's over.
Or enlightened, however you want to look at it. But to get to the parish question, there's also family pressures that we need to address here as well. There's some expectations in circles that you marry a Catholic or a Polish Catholic or a Latino Catholic, and when those narratives get upset, shall we say, there can be challenges that are presented not just at the parish level, but within the larger context of one's family. The value, though, is that we begin new conversations about what it means to be Christian, what it means to be a Catholic or a member of the Church of Christ or an Orthodox Christian that might not have happened in the past. So there are real avenues to begin new dialogues that we see in these relationships, both at the parish level and the diocesan level, but also in the families.
along those very same lines for Bridget and Daniel, we've shared our stories briefly regarding our own parents. When the both of you started dating, and rather seriously, when you told your parents about each other's faith tradition, what were your parents' reaction to the whole thing?
Why don't you go first?
My parents, they're both Catholic as well. And so they were kind of just like, okay, tell us more. And they had met Daniel before. So they weren't just thinking that it was a random person that they may have met that I was introducing to them as an other in a way. They knew him. He had been my friend for a long time. So when they met him, they were like, oh, Daniel, we like him. Okay, now let's talk more deeply about what that means. Like, are you going to be married in the church? Like, what's that process like? But because Daniel and I had a really strong connection in terms of talking about these things out at the beginning, he brought to me and said, would you like to get married in the Catholic Church? We can do that. I'd love to do that. So we had already started that conversation together, which really helped, I think.
Now, how about for you, Daniel, with your folks?
Yeah, I would say that my mother grew up in the Church of Christ tradition. My father's family was actually a little bit more fluid in their church relationship in terms of which churches they went to, mostly Church of Christ. But I would say their reaction initially was kind of a little hesitant, but it was more about getting to know Bridget as a person, getting to know that she is a faithful person in that she follows Christ, and not that she, condemns others because they're not Catholic. And so getting to know her as a person was obviously the biggest thing. And for me, it was just helpful for them to see that side of her. And then also that side of when they would come down and visit, that we have several friends who were, parishioners at Christ the Redeemer Catholic Church. And they got to meet them and see that they were just normal people, just like anyone else. And so that was the biggest part, is just getting to know Bridget, getting to know a few other parishioners and other people within the Catholic faith, and realizing that we're all Christians striving to live a more Christ-centered life and make an impact here in our communities, in our world.
It's so interesting. Look at how the differences between our parents' generation, Mark, and with Dan, but Dan's younger than us, to
much
Bridget,
younger.
Well, don't go too far. He's a Packer fan, all right? And compared to Bridget and Daniel, what we're going to do is, Mark, take us to break. And Dan, I have a question for you when we get back. So take us to break, Mark.
WNDZ, 750 AM on your dial, Catholic Chicago. 312-255-8408. Or you can listen and watch us on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. We'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Catholic Charities in Lake County provides a comprehensive range of social services supporting individuals, families, and older adults. These include crisis assistance, shelter, clothing, family support, counseling, legal assistance, primary health care, and specialized services for seniors and veterans. Grab-and-go meals and food pantries help those who are experiencing food insecurity. Plus, we have a diaper depot to support low-income families and their infants. If we can assist you or someone you know, please call Catholic Charities of Lake County at 847-782-4000. That's 847-782-4000.
I feel special. I feel great. I got good grades.
We've seen a huge surge in our kids now meeting or exceeding grade level. Come check us out. You may have never thought we were an option before.
We're back. Catholic Chicago, WNDZ, 750 AM on your dial, 312-255-8408, or you can watch us and listen to us on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Father Greg, you have a question.
Dan, real quick question. This is for Dan Olson. I was always been raised in terms of the term interfaith. I'm seeing today on the sheet for us, it's also using the term interchurch. Are we talking the same thing, or is there some difference that I'm missing?
It's a great question. What I would say is they are different. Interfaith usually speaks about marrying someone of a different faith tradition, a Muslim, a Buddhist, a Hindu. Interchurch speaks about an inter-Christian marriage, and in particular, we're talking about dedicated, active couples that are very engaged in their faith when we use the term interchurch or ecumenical marriages. There's many types of mixed marriages, religiously or otherwise. What we're talking about today is those couples that are committed to their Christian faith, live it out in their respective traditions, and then participate in one another's church as much as possible while living out a Christ-centered life, which could be distinguished from an interreligious or interfaith marriage.
Okay, thank you. That's a great clarification. Thank you, Dan.
So along those lines, then, Daniel and Bridget, we probably have a lot of Catholic listeners, but Daniel, maybe you could share a little bit about the background of your faith, the Church of Christ. But then, where do our faiths intersect?
Yeah, so we came out of a Reformation movement here in the States. I believe it was Alexander Campbell and I think Barton Stone. Don't quote me on that. I'm not a scholar of my religion by any means. My brother is, but I'm not. But we came out of a tradition that was seeking to kind of even break from other Protestant traditions, honestly, because they saw certain things that were didn't agree with Scripture, let's say, or that's what the mindset was. It was about getting back to the Church of Acts 2 in that sense. At least that's what the tradition was when they created this denomination, I'll say. And I would say the main difference, if you ever go into a Church of Christ, is that it doesn't follow a certain liturgy each week. It's a different flow of worship. And then also, I would say 99% or maybe 90% nowadays do not have instrumental music in their church service. So it's all a cappella worship as well.
Good.
And that would be the main differences. And then I would say, obviously, we have communion, but not the Eucharist. So there's no transubstantiation and things like that because there's not a priest presiding over the service. Right?
I have a question, Bridget, from what Daniel was just saying, which is very interesting. Now, you've been married for how many years now?
3 years.
3 years, okay.
Wow.
And, Bridget, Daniel was pretty quick to know how long. I'm very impressed, Daniel.
Did you see my face?
Daniel, when's your anniversary?
It's May 18th, 2019, May 19th, 2018. Sorry.
Okay, good. You're on a roll. You'll have dinner tonight. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Even though Daniel is probably cooking with you anyway, so Bridget, being Catholic background and Daniel's background, Church of Christ, in the 3 years, what have you found to be the most challenging in terms of religious differences? I mean, we love to focus on what we can celebrate, unites us, but there's also differences too. What has been the most challenging to this point?
I'd say the most challenging has to do with Eucharist and like going to, because we go to two services. Well, before COVID, we went to two services. So we go to Mass together. And then after that, we go to Church of Christ worship. And the Eucharistic part was a struggle. And even, people seeing that and not really understanding what's happening, because everybody, when he'd be involved at Christ Redeemer, they'd assume that he's Catholic, which was fine. He was a very active member and parishioner there too. But when he'd get asked to join the Knights of Columbus, that question would come up. They see this active guy who's in everything and wanting to do everything. So they'd ask him to be a knight. And he's like, "Oh, I'm not Catholic." And then they'd say, "Bridget, what's wrong with you? He's not Catholic yet." So I'd say some of those questions. And then Eucharist for sure. Like when you get married, you're one. And so we are one. And for him not to be able to receive Eucharist almost doesn't make sense because we are one. But we understand church teaching. He is so respectful of Catholic tradition and our divine revelation. And I think that we're ready for the church to make those changes, but that's a hard point for both of us.
And maybe let's bounce that back to Dr. Dan then. As you look at the church right now, and you look at a couple like Bridget and Daniel that would come to you in terms of wanting to be married, where does the church fit in terms of making them feel welcome?
I think the church has a long way to go with this, to be frank. I think we need to pour resources, develop materials, train pastors, deacons, and otherwise of how to best receive and welcome interchurch couples into our midst in our parishes. In a sense, we don't know what to do with them. And that's still the case, but this is increasingly a pastoral issue in our parishes. And I think we need to address it better, both from our marriage and family offices and otherwise. We speak so much about how important marriage is. We consider Bridget and Daniel's marriage a sacramental marriage. So I think the church, in a sense, has to step up a bit and provide the resources that they need to navigate their challenges.
Yeah, Dan, I would absolutely agree with you because going back to our parents' generation, very few interfaith, interchurch marriages was unheard of. You're Catholic, you marry a Catholic, period.
And that didn't always work.
And that always did not work, exactly. And so, but you look at the world today, that many couples getting married are both they're interfaith, interchurch, and the Catholic Church. The word Catholic means all are welcome, universal, and so we have to find ways to celebrate what unites us, and to help families grow together. And maybe the very last minute, Bridget and Daniel, in 3 years of being married, regarding your interchurch relationship, what has surprised you the most in a great way?
Okay.
I think that what has surprised me is the acceptance from each of our communities, because when they do get to know us and learn about our relationship, there's still that love. Like, they want to know more. You have to be ready for those questions. And we've kind of trained ourselves to try to be as ready as we can. But it's like iron sharpening iron. Like, it's so beautiful. We learn more about ourselves, each other's faith, and then we educate a community that wouldn't know otherwise.
And just in the last minute here, being down in Texas there, Bridget and Daniel, the big question, are you Houston Texan fans for football?
I'm originally from Nashville, Tennessee, so I'm actually a Tennessee Titans fan. So
okay.
Go Titans. And I'm not sure you're going to like her answer.
Bridget, tell
I'm
us,
actually
Bridget.
a Packer fan.
Oh, God. Michael May and Brian Hockeyman Brock. We're finished with Dan and with Bridget. Bridget's a Packer fan. Beside Daniel. Beside Dan.
Before we close, can I share one little tidbit of Father Greg advice to married couples? He was a witness at our son and his wife's marriage, and he said, "Marty, there are 3 words that you need to hold on to throughout your marriage? And I thought it was going to be, I love you. He said, I was wrong.
You can go even further. You were right. And I love you. Memorize those three. And I want to thank in a very special way Dr. Dan Olson, who is the Director of Interreligious Ecumenical Affairs in the Archdiocese of Chicago. And also with very special thank you to Bridget and Daniel Richardson, an inter-church marriage couple. It's been a delightful conversation. We could have spoken. We could have had the whole hour together.
I know, it was wonderful.
You are listening to WNDZ 750 AM, Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Teresi, 312-255-8408. Also, we are on YouTube.com/Catholic Chicago. Stay with us. We'll be back after a couple of minutes. But again, to Daniel and to Bridget and to Dan, thank you
so much.
Great first half hour. God bless you.
Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Catholic Charities has continued to respond to the needs of people who come to us for assistance. More than 850,000 meals and food parcels have been offered to those who are struggling with food insecurity. Over 108,000 homelessness prevention hotline calls have been answered. Over 22,000 people have received mental health services, and $2 million in financial assistance has been provided to keep people housed. If you or someone you know needs assistance, email us at gethelp@catholiccharities.net. That's gethelp@catholiccharities.net. Or call 312-655-7700. That's 312-655-7700. Before, during, and after COVID-19, Catholic Charities is here for you.
The cemetery ministry is a core ministry of our Catholic faith tied to the corporal works of mercy. It's comforting to know that our Catholic cemeteries are caring for the remains of our loved ones awaiting the resurrection. There are 44 Archdiocese of Chicago Catholic cemeteries willing to help you in your time of loss. Call 708-449-6100 or visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org. Catholic Cemeteries, serving the Catholic community since 1837.
You're listening to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. Every Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., the Archdiocese of Chicago presents programming about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Thanks for letting us be part of your morning. Now again, Catholic Chicago.
Welcome back to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM, 312-255-8408. Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Teresi. You can also get us on YouTube.com/Catholic Chicago. And great first half hour, Mark.
It really was.
Delightful couple along with Dan Olson.
Inspiring.
Very inspiring. And the time in Chicago is 8:35 on this. Looks like another hot, humid day, and big storms coming back in tonight. But we call these the dog days of August. And I'm okay with it because you realize that next Wednesday is already September.
No.
And then we have Labor Day weekend. And it's like, where did summer fly?
Yep.
Where'd it go? Tremendous second half hour of the program lined up. Joyce Duriga, editor of the Chicago Catholic, is the guest for the second half of the program. Joyce will talk about some of the stories that were recently covered in Chicago Catholic, starting with the funeral of slain police officer Ella French. Joyce, welcome to the program.
Welcome.
How are you, Joyce? You always got such a beautiful smile, and you're always so busy. But we all are. We truly have saddened, heavy hearts. What took place a few weeks ago with the shooting, the death of Ella French, and then also the other officer, I think it was Officer, was it Carlos?
Yeah, let me look it up. Our website, all this stuff's on our website, and our website's down right now, so I'm sort of
the thing is,
panicking.
Unfortunately, he was shot in the eye and rehabilitating, and it's just a
he was
tragic,
shot in the head too. Shot 2 times.
the
His
head
name
and
is,
the eye, and it's just horrible. And and now tell us something about, first of all, the Cardinal Supich gave a magnificent homily at Ella French's funeral. I think it was last Thursday at St. Rita's the Chapel, and what the words were so inspiring, but our hearts are so heavy. And say more about that, Joyce.
Well, he no, it was a good homily, and he had spoken to the mom ahead of time, and got some understanding of who Ella French was. But what I liked about the homily was he was ministering to both the police and then like the general public, right? Because he acknowledged that the police, every time they go out, they don't know that they're going to come home, and that they put their lives on the line for us every day, and that that's something that we should recognize. And he said, I pulled up the story. He said, "We pray for the intercession of St. Michael the Archangel, the patron of police officers, to watch over you and banish from your minds and hearts any temptation that leads you to conclude that you are alone or that you have to suffer in lonely silence." And, and he really talked about how her death isn't in vain. We can all learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know, guys, if you have we can pull it up. There's a part where he says, "Let us all take a step back and put aside the impulse that would divide us." It was good. I mean, it was very moving. You can, if you go to ChicagoCatholic.com, we have some photos up from it. And I don't know if you've ever been to one of these. Unfortunately, we've been to a couple, for police and fire. And
it's powerful.
Yeah, and the display of support. There were hundreds and hundreds of officers from around the state and around, the country outside. It was hot. 5 of them passed out, right?
Yeah.
And then this is a prayer service they did the week before for Ella up in the 16th district, and like 400 people came out. They closed down Milwaukee Avenue for the service, but it was wall-to-wall people inside the chapel, as you all saw on TV. But then we've covered a few of the processions, and the processions are so, I cry every time, because there were over 1,000 police cars that get took up the process with the hearse. And so we went down to Leo High School, which is right along the route, and all of Leo came out.
Wow.
And I spoke to both the principal and the president, and Leo's predominantly African American, right? And they said, it's important for us to come out right now and pay our respects, and also to witness to this, that that maybe this is a bridge that can cross that gap between police officers and young African American men right now. So it's, and then another thing, afterwards, Karen Calloway, our photo editor, who we were together running around on this, she wanted to go and get photos of a makeshift shrine by where Officer French was killed over in West Englewood. I pulled up GPS, it's 15 minutes away. Now, in the 15 minutes that it took us to get from Auburn Gresham to West Englewood, 3 police incidents we saw that they had people pulled over. One of them, the block was, there was a SUV vehicle blocking us getting down this street, and then there was red and yellow police tape. That's in 15 minutes when just over 1,000 police cars just went through.
Wow.
And we're going through, and there's just blight and poverty, and there were some one-way streets, so to get to the shrine we had to go through the neighborhood, and people are sitting out fanning themselves. There's trash everywhere, and there's just, and I think it was just the emotion of the day, but I got angry. I'm like, nobody should live like this,
Wow.
like
Yep.
maybe a half dozen miles away in Beverly, there's a whole different existence, right? And people in our neighborhoods live just, there's such disparity between
And so
our
close proximity. We need to go to a break here. So that's tremendous. You're speaking from the heart there, Joyce. Take us to break, Mark.
Yeah, and when we get back, Joyce, you are the consummate storyteller and documenter of these events for the Archdiocese of Chicago. I want to talk to you a little bit about the importance of that role and how you see it. So WNDZ, 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408, or you can watch us on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. We'll be back with Joyce Duriga, Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Teresi will be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
There's so much waiting for you at Catholic Charities Senior Services. We offer programs and services to help make the most of every day. Friendships and fun are guaranteed at our drop-in senior centers. Our adult daycare centers offer enjoyment and greater supervision to seniors who need it, while their caregivers get a break. Holy Family Villa provides a beautiful, safe environment for seniors looking for short or long-term residential facility. And we offer assistance with senior benefits, care coordination, congregate and home-delivered meals, hospital transition, and much more. For more than 100 years, we have accompanied seniors through every transition in their lives, and we are here for you now. Catholic Charities is a name and an agency you can trust. Call Senior Services today at 312-655-7700. That's 312-655-7700.
Welcome back.
Es fabuloso verlos.
Dobrze jest znowu być razem.
It's good to be together again.
After so many months apart, pandemic capacity limits have been lifted, and we want to welcome everyone back to church. We can all pray together again. And listen as our choirs lift their voices in song.
We've been together in spirit.
And now, when you are ready, our doors are open wide.
Nuestras puertas están abiertas de par en par.
Nasze drzwi są otwarte.
And we're here to welcome you back to Catholic Mass.
We're back, WNDZ, 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408, or you can see us and hear us on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. We're with Joyce Duriga, editor of the Chicago Catholic, and Joyce has shared very emotional reflections, recollections on the funeral for police officer Ella French. We appreciate your honesty in terms of what you've been sharing with us. And you talked about those three instances, going to where she was shot. But you also are going to talk a little bit about, what are some of the solutions? And there's a whole grants program recently called Our Peace Plan. And if you could talk a little bit about that, because there are some people trying to make a difference.
And to bring solutions and answers to this.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. And Father Greg, Mark, you might know her too, but Father Greg does. Linda Weaver, she's a
very active parishioner at the cathedral. We both know Linda very well. I call her a living saint.
She really is. And she lost, her husband and her two sons died in a plane crash. They were out fishing in Canada in a remote spot in 2019. So she found out that she was the beneficiary of her son Johnny's, one of his life insurance policies. So she has always wanted to do something on nonviolence. So she came up with this idea of donating that money and encouraging parishes to submit plans that then she could fund with these grants. And she did it through Bishop Bob Lombardo's office in Vicariate 3. So it's, Austin, West Side. It's also downtown. It's also like Old St. Mary's and whatnot. And she ended up...
It involves, I think, 6 parishes.
She ended up giving to 6 parishes. And she also threw in an extra $25,000. So for a total of $105,000, they got 6 parishes got grants. 3 parishes got $25,000 each, and then 3 other parishes got 10. And I was talking to some of the pastors, for example, in Little Village, Mother of the Americas, which just merged with St. Roman, Our Lady of Tepeyac, and Assumption. I can't remember the last one, but they're going to start an arts intervention program for youth after school, where they're going to teach them how to this certain type of art that's linoleum screen printing, and then they'll be able to sell their art, like, because you can reproduce it. And the priest was saying, we couldn't do this without someone like Linda giving us this money. We wouldn't have the money they have to buy the equipment. They're going to pay that right there. That's the shrine to Ella French. But so, not everybody has the means that, that Linda has, but you can do things like this. Like I was talking to, again, Father Baharik over at Mother of the Americas, and that's in Little Village. And he said they always need help. You can come and volunteer, or you can offer financial support, but those parishes tend to not have a lot of financial support in their, because their communities aren't wealthy. So they're trying to keep the lights on and, still try and prevent violence and minister to their people. So I think there's a lot of, and there's no one solution, right? Because people I think sometimes, especially from outside Chicago, they see us on the headlines and they're like, oh, that's just bad people. They don't want to get jobs. They don't want to. No.
It's not the
Saint
case.
Sabina does a program where they they give job skills, like real job skills, to guys who are in this kind of age group and targeted. And what they found is sometimes these folks have never been outside a 3-mile radius of Saint Sabina.
Now these are
that seems. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say these are 2 great stories in the Chicago Catholic. I went on a couple days ago just in preparation for today, and then a screen popped up and said, put my email in and I can receive updates. Can you just talk a little bit? I know that's not why you came on the program, but talk a little bit about how do people connect to the Chicago Catholic, to these wonderful, inspirational, and informative stories. Yeah, how do they, and not only that, online too, but go ahead, Joyce.
Yeah, ChicagoCatholic.com, which is now back online. They were having an issue this morning, but
good timing.
I freaked out.
Good timing.
The site was down, and so you can get this pops up, and it's annoying, and I apologize, but once you type in your email, you don't get this anymore. I send out a newsletter about 3 times a week. It's usually 2 news emails, so it'll be our stories or stories from the Vatican, and then there'll be a scripture column from Father Don Sr. for the weekend mass. And then on the weeks that the Cardinal writes, he will replace he'll replace one of the newsletters with his column. You can follow us on social media. We put everything up there. The subscription is $25. We're not fully funded by the Archdiocese, so we do rely on ads and subscriptions for some of our support. But, and of course, this is personal for me, right? Like, this is a vocation. And we were the only one, when the pandemic shut down, we were out. We were going out. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to find out what was going on in the Catholic community,
shut down.
There was we were it. And I keep telling people, we worked hard and we got a lot of stuff out there. So I would encourage people to subscribe or at least check us out.
And you've been the editor for how many years now, Joyce?
Sorry, Father?
You've been the editor for how many years?
Over 13.
Over 13.
Wow.
Over 13 already.
Right
that
from
is
8th
amazing.
grade.
Yeah, right from 8th grade you became the editor. And maybe just our last, make the sign across those that are doing YouTube here. To kind of a little bit of a segue, tell us maybe about Father Andrew Legminas,
Yeah.
being appointed to serve as an official the doctrinal section of the Holy See's Congregation, the Doctrine of the Faith, which is an incredible, prestigious position. So, and Father Andrew is a wonderful, wonderful young priest.
He sure is.
And I've got sweaters older than him. And I think he's only 37 years old. So tell us a little about that. That's a good story.
Right. He's only one of two English speakers who will be in that office. It's an international office. They deal with faith and morals. Been around for a couple hundred years. People know it as the Inquisition came through it, but they do different things now. Yeah, he's very humble about it, but he has a working knowledge of about 6 languages, and a PhD, studied in Rome. And he was in Calvert House his last assignment, and it was great because he's brilliant. Like, I know his family, I know his mom, and it was a good assignment for him down at the University of Chicago because he can relate to those young people who are asking those questions, and he can answer them on their level. But he's also feels that this appointment to go to Rome could help people in the church here in Chicago understand the universal church. Like, a lot of people probably don't know that there's these congregations at the Vatican, and it's a way for the Vatican serves the diocese, but it's a way for diocese to give back to service to the universal church. So he'll be dealing with issues on anywhere from the English-speaking world, and they have consultors and theologians and stuff all over the world. So,
and he also
but I'm not surprised. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, he also has pastoral experience. He was at your home parish at Mary Seat of Wisdom,
and people loved him.
Oh, they absolutely loved him.
I forgot that. Yeah, Father.
Because he has a compassionate soul. So this position,
he's very pastoral.
Yeah,
and that's very much needed in that position.
Exactly.
Not only about the doctrine, but being pastoral to the human situation. But and also, Father Andrew, like you mentioned, Joyce, is so humble, down to earth, always deflecting any praise, and so that appointment in some ways is no surprise, but it's a great appointment for him.
Right. Now, I had a question about the Cardinals column. So it shows in every issue, correct?
Mm-hmm.
No, only if he writes.
Okay. Do you prompt him with topics, or does he just say, "Here's what I want to talk about"? Or
yeah, and
he's a great writer.
You shook your head on radio, just so you know, when you were shaking your head, yes or no. Yeah. The radio audience couldn't see it.
Yeah, the YouTube people can see, but the radio audience saying, "Okay, we go to dead air. Please stand by."
Apologize.
No, don't worry about that. It's happened before in the studio here.
Now, Joyce, what's the next big story that you're looking at for the Chicago Catholic? Can you give us a little teaser?
Sure. We're working on, hopefully we'll get it done for this issue. Mundeleин's turning 100. If you've ever been up to Mundelein Seminary, it's beautiful grounds. Has a neat history with Cardinal Mundelein, founded the town, all of that. We have another peace march that we're going to, St. John Bosco, Stanislaus, Bishop Martyr, St. James. This is all like in Belmont Cragen, which also sees its share of violence. We're going there. And then two different things. There's the Silver Rose. The Knights of Columbus have this Silver Rose that goes around the country. It's in honor of Our Lady of Guadalupe. It's coming to Chicago. I don't remember it ever coming before. So that's at St. Teresa Palatine tomorrow night. And then on Sunday, St. Benedict on Urban Park Road is having a service for, I don't know if you saw the story about the indigenous schools. Some of them were run by Catholic communities, and they found a lot of mass graves, that's a complicated issue because there was a lot of disease at that time, and you kind of bury diseased bodies in anyway. So they're having a prayer service for that. So that's some of the stuff that we're covering. But other things I want to take a look at is like grief and COVID. I've talked to a lot of people who maybe put their loved one in the hospital and thought they would get him back, and they died in the hospital, and now it's like, well, did I make the wrong decision? And there's all this. And I think the mental health issue from COVID is still going on. And now that Illinois is putting mask mandates back again today. I think mental health has been hugely impacted.
Yeah, I want to say something about that, Joyce. That is, I think we're all of us are becoming down again with the numbers rising, and now new further disciplines put into place with wearing masks. I mean, Mark and I are in the radio studio here. Each wearing a mask that we're more than 6 feet apart. Our diocese wants to be wearing masks, and we comply with the state.
We thought by now we'd have an in-studio guest.
Oh, sure. In fact, you got to remember, Joyce, back in June, things were looking much, much better. The numbers were down. Like the positivity rate was like 0.60, less than 1% in Chicago. Now, what is it today? About 4.6 or pushing 5% positivity rate. We are moving in the wrong direction, and this Delta variant, not only is it running rampant among the unvaccinated, but the breakthrough cases are on the rise. Now, maybe those people aren't getting as sick, but guess what? I have been vaccinated, the 2 shots. I don't want COVID even to be asymptomatic, and I don't. Who wants COVID? And now they're talking another variant coming, but now you hear the latest is that there's a possibility with all these mutations and of the virus. It may be hit on, one may come in which no virus or no vaccine will be of help to it. So we need the program to a close. And, Joyce, you have done an outstanding job now for over 13 years as the editor of the Chicago Catholic. It's amazing how quickly the years have gone by. And it was even in your voice when you were conveying the whole story regarding Ella French. Sometimes people forget you are an editor, you're a reporter, but there's a human side to you that you are touched to the deepest core, because even when you were talking today about the Ella French funeral and the procession, you were choking up.
But that's the gift. Were choking that's up. The gift you bring.
Yes, exactly.
To the ministry. To the ministry.
Because of the human side of you and the faith side of you. So I want to say thank you very much to Joyce Duriga this last half hour, editor of the Chicago Catholic, who does a marvelous job. You'll be back on again, Joyce, so God bless you. Keep up the great work. And special thank you to co-host Mark Teresi. Mark, great to be with you here this morning.
Really, it's been wonderful.
It was a great, great hour. Special thank you to our producers and editors and directors and whatever you want to call them, Michael May and Brian Hockey Hitman Brock. So Michael and Brian, again, a tremendous job organizing the program and keeping us straight. And to all of our listeners, may God bless you. Stay healthy, and the Cubs play the White Sox this weekend. I'm a diehard White Sox fan, so may the
Go Cubs.
Best team win. Go White Sox.
Go Cubs.
Join us every Monday through Friday at this time for Catholic Chicago. You can stream our programs live or listen to past programs by visiting our website, archchicago.org, and clicking on Radio TV. And please connect with Catholic Chicago on social media.